Now recording. Now we're recording. Welcome to another edition of Berkeley Heights Community Watch, and we call it Night Watch, but it's
that sounds sketchier. I like it.
I do like sketchy. We before this started recording, we started talking about the apocalypse, and sort of Shauna's dilemma about whether she would eat dogs or people first.
Oh my God!
Just threw it out there. Well, we were talking about who we would eat first.
Right. And Shauna had a hard time Shauna's all about like eating people before dogs.
This is good because we can also go out and see what neighbors are looking at us weird if anybody listens to this crap and then is like they look at us differently and then we know they're watching. So this is really good feedback actually.
Yeah, this is our prep for the apocalypse to see who goes first. All right, so we have a packed agenda today, and I have to be out of here by like what time is it? I have to be out of here by like 2. Hey man, you probably do a better job hosting this. All right, so we have our first item on this is waffles and pancakes, and Laura thought we should probably try to start with something light so that we come across as maybe, I don't know if this was your intention, but maybe there might be some slight chance that people might like us more if we start off with something light.
There's no chance.
Okay.
No.
Probably not. Okay. But so let's go with this. Waffles and pancakes, and Laura, the intention behind this debate is to what? Or what's the problem we're trying to solve here?
There's no problem. I just like to know what people prefer on
waffles,
Sunday morning.
But we don't always make waffles. Pancakes 92.5% of the time are made more than waffles.
Same in my house. But I prefer
a real statistic.
I prefer good waffle. No?
Waffles.
You like waffles, but don't. I feel like waffles leave you kind of more hungry than pancakes.
You gotta put the right amount of eggs and milk in there.
You gotta top them.
True. Facts.
Yeah. You got a ton. And bacon is a must. You gotta have bacon with it.
Yes. And
can I be honest and say I really don't like either of them for breakfast?
I think Laura's gaslighting you. Pancakes.
I like Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. Like if I had a breakfast, but if I had to choose between waffles and pancakes, I think I'd pick pancakes, man. Waffles feel like I'm eating like a sweet cracker.
Ham, egg, and cheese, or Taylor ham and cheese? Because you could just
Taylor ham, egg. Okay. No, Taylor ham, egg, and cheese.
If you don't go Jersey, we could just end this right now.
Oh no, you have to go Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. But in a pinch, if I don't have Taylor ham, I'm going Virginia ham.
I'm going bacon.
Or bacon. Okay, Shauna.
Waffles. Definitely waffles. Wearing Pro double-sided Belgian waffle maker and Crusties.
Man, that is surprising. Okay.
Waffles rock.
I mean, I just feel like they feel like you're not eating anything.
All right, I'm gonna make you a waffle.
Right.
I'm gonna make you breakfast tomorrow.
I mean, I never made a waffle, man. I go to the diner to get waffles. I didn't know there were actually people who made their own waffles. I know that they sell these. Okay. No, that's all right, man. I don't know. Okay. I don't really make my own pancakes either.
JP doesn't have his own waffle maker. So we're not going to eat you during the apocalypse.
You're
That's good.
Waffles.
I eat terrible shit. Terrible tasting shit. All right. So let's go to our first thing, HIB and safety. I think these are kind of related. Laura, you wanted this on here as well. So let's, did you want me to share the HIB policy or presentation for this?
I don't know. Do we need it? I feel like there's some interesting points in the presentation. And then I also feel like there's some gaps that, I don't know, we're either told we can't tell you because it's confidential, or I just feel like it's a little too hush-hush. And I feel like it would be to benefit of everyone to not have it that way.
All right. So can we go to the parts that you might have sort of an issue with?
Like, right there.
Okay.
It's basically, it's at the discretion of the administration, right? So you're talking about it's at the discretion of the administrator of the school with the counselor, but it's basically, we can decide what we think is HIB and what's not. And I feel like if you talk to parents, they've run the full gamut of, things that have been a HIB investigation and then things that haven't been a HIB investigation. And I think the path to opening an investigation is not clear. And I don't know that this presentation that's on our district website makes it any more clear, maybe less clear.
So I think maybe can we start off with what is a HIB? Like what? So I don't know if I mean, I'm assuming every parent knows what a HIB is, but I don't know. Go ahead, John.
Oh, that worked?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
As you're doing that, I also think we should probably, because my questions are how much the state runs HIB, because there's HIB law too. So as long as we're navigating what they're required and not required to do, and we're kind of talking about where they do have some bandwidth and where they aren't, where they're just following legal process. You know, that's something I'm looking it up a little bit now because I have some questions about that too.
All right. So can one of you guys give us a framework of HIB?
Are you asking me?
Anybody? Yeah.
To be honest, I don't feel like I know enough, and I've done a lot of research. I have served on school safety committees. It's still a little bit mysterious to me. I think my biggest issue that I've discussed in the school safety committees is that I feel like more often than not, parents are using HIB as a weapon against other children, because I believe that there are sort of trigger words that a parent could use to approach the school that I've been at least told, or I believe my belief system is that those trigger words will open an investigation immediately. And if actually at the end of this presentation, if people want to look at our kind of like the HIB report card for our district, and as you can tell, the majority of the cases that are investigated are not founded to be HIB, but a conflict, which makes sense. I mean, we're talking about mostly, you know, the highest percentage of cases are happening at middle school and high school. So it kind of goes back to what Leo said, like how much of this are we kind of doing because the state is making us doing it, and are we doing enough, I guess, is that
Which also provides some problems too, because one of the things we've noticed is that it's highly scripted, as it probably should be, but then there's been issues with the scripts because, I mean, you mentioned report cards, and there's report card informations under the state legislation. It's got report card information and what's supposed to be reported to the state, so it's highly regulated by state law. Now, the thing is when you get down to something like the script, and you're trying really hard to stick to a script because it's harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and there may be an ongoing investigation. So you treat it like you have to treat it kind of confidentially.
When you say script, you mean like protocol?
Yes. So what happens is that when a principal contacts a parent, they stick to a script, but that means it's very limited information they give the parent. So then they wait for the student to come home and give them the rest of the information. So you're actually kind of, the way it's designed, whether it's by state or by the local districts trying to follow the law carefully and not get in trouble, the student transmits more information than the principal does now. And I don't know if that's the right way to go, because now you're waiting on the student to come home and tell you how their day went. And it's like, yeah, it was good. Well, there was an airsoft weapon in school or not? Was there not, you know? Or if they're part of the investigation, whether they're on the victim side or the person who actually may have caused the issue, they still are the one transmitting the information to the home. So the parent gets the call, whether they were, for instance, you guys talked about the kill list last time. The parents on the kill list versus the kid that actually wrote it all got the same phone call, the same basic information, is that your student is part of a HIB investigation. So you're relying on the student to bring the rest of the information home. So that obviously causes some problems.
Wait, so parents don't get notified of what details the investigation
they get notified
are?
and that's required, but I don't think the details are not required. They can't have details.
That's weird, yo. I mean, that's creepy. So basically, if my kid gets it, so just kind of walking through the process. So HIB is essentially a protocol for a child to report bullying that they've experienced or that they've
or parent.
I'm sorry, or parent, right?
A child or a parent.
And then a HIB could be initiated, I guess, by any staff member, a teacher, an administrator, right? That they can collect that. And so then who conducts the investigation?
So each school, and it actually might be on here, each school has a designated person.
Anti-bullying specialist coordinator.
All right, there you go. Hold on, JP, go back. It's the investigators. So these are go up again. There we go. So here are the people who are piloting those investigations. Of course, it's a collaborative effort because usually teachers are involved. The other thing that's interesting is that even if your child is indirectly involved in an HIV investigation, so you know, John and Shauna were on the playground and Shauna got pushed by John because I was also on the playground.
Would never.
Yeah, the other way around.
No, I didn't
be
need him.
realistic.
So if I was on the playground, my sheer proximity or presence in that situation means I could also, like, my mom and dad could also get that letter saying I'm involved because I'm a witness. So I don't know, when do the parental right, like, I don't want my kid involved in it. I don't know. I think there's greater questions as to not the legality, but if my kid's involved in something, I would like to know the details as a parent, or if I want them involved.
So then, I agree. That part of it's kind of weird. So let's imagine they conclude the investigation. So the impression that I got were there were these like very hard and fast rules that cut this is him and not him, which seemed really suspicious to me because you can't really put human behavior sort of on that kind of yes/no binary, right? And
Right.
I think a couple of years ago, Ms. Gasparini was working on sort of a triage for Woodruff, and I thought it was a very good idea that sort of allowed people to sort of exit out of that process if there was sort of a judgment call made saying, you know, this isn't really him, this is more normal developmental behavior. And then I'm hearing back and forth that there is a triage or isn't a triage. So I just feel like there's a lot of confusion as to like what's sort of the tool that's used. Is there a tool that's used to sort of with indicators that sort of lead to a decision tree on this? Is there a decision tree? And then I guess the other piece of it is there's a potential for this shit to follow a kid throughout his academic life. Is that also true or not true?
I believe
I
so.
believe that changed.
But I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna go to.
I
It
don't
can
know
go to
what the
college, right?
Yes, I believe it stays on that record. It's also interesting, and I really was unfamiliar with the verbiage of our HIV protocol before it was, you know, the state mandated new measures. So what's interesting is that, you know, what is HIV? So you're a parent, right? So I'm going to read out, I think it's page 4. Takes place on school property at any school sponsored function, on a school bus, or on or off school grounds. So you're literally talking about, I mean, off school grounds. It's literally anywhere.
Well, that's kind of weird.
So I feel like I don't know, if my kids are at Dunkin' Donuts and something happens, is that an HIV? Who handles that? I feel like there's almost too much here.
Right. So I think this kind of this makes a nice entry into sort of the issue of safety, right? Because I think, you know, one of the concerns that I have when it comes to sort of safety is the issue of, for me, and again, I know that we have a variety of opinions, but once you start sort of including different reporting systems, and then the possibility of law enforcement having more proximity to certain issues, given some of the problems that you've just talked about in terms of lack of clarity and sort of parental involvement and knowledge. You know, the thing I liked about John's article was it didn't necessarily take a position as much as it said, like, we need a lot more coherency here, because we have, the way I interpreted it, I guess, was that you have sort of a disparate set of tools and initiatives that are trying to peripherally do the same thing. Some of them are overlapping, some of them aren't. People have strong opinions on all of them on all sides, and it's leading to a lot of confusion and knee-jerk reactions. And, you know, administrators and staff are trying to test sensibilities on the ground versus acting from a coherent policy that's been discussed beforehand. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that as well.
Well, the first in the HIB that's required by law, you're supposed to adopt a policy that includes representation of parents. It's the first thing they list, parents.
Yeah.
So if the school tells us they have collaboration of parents, I think it still leans towards their pick of parents, the ones that they like, the ones that don't push on them and don't ask them questions. So now you're not really getting good input because you're not getting parents where, for instance, like we're here sitting, well, what about this? What about this? What about that? We've gotten into a relationship with them where you go up and ask questions, and that kind of pressure is not positively critical for them. They look at it as offensive. So that means that kind of animosity deteriorates any kind of process that they put in place. So the thing with the metal detectors example is interesting because it's the extreme, right? It tells you, all right, you put that in place, and then what's going to happen? Well, you need policies, procedures, and systems put in place to maintain that device. And if you don't have appropriate collaboration or people to say, hey, that failed over there, do we know why it failed, and can we make sure it doesn't fail again, so that later in the future they can make sure that the system's useless if you don't have a proper process to make sure that you support it. So you can do anything you want. If nobody really has a sincere feeling about it, it's not going to, you don't have to do anything. It don't work. Like you just put out there that, oh, at first, and I have to say that I think they came back, the principal of CM in particular in the last instance came out and thanked the students for speaking up. But the initial message was, I wish they spoke up sooner, which is kind of mixed. It could be validating the importance of speaking up and doing it quickly, or it's not saying, hey, that was really good what you did. You need to speak up. We need more people to speak up. That's the real message, because that's the one thing of security. No matter if you have a zero budget for security, no SROs, your students and your parents are the last line of defense, and they're the ones that are going to report stuff when they see it. And if you devalue it, you just destroyed it. So it was kind of along those lines that if we're not paying attention, it doesn't matter what you do, you still lose the value of whatever security system you presently have. And
I agree with you. Like, there's ample evidence, especially in the past, last 3 weeks, or the past 2 years, that a lot of the committees or a lot of the things that are set up are packed with folks that are politically friendly or friendly to certain ideas that are consistent with who's elected, and there really isn't a sincere outreach for I guess differences of opinion on any issue, really, not just security, but really on any issue. Any thoughts on this, Sean, from your perspective?
No, I'm keeping quiet. I'm saving up for the next topic.
Okay, are we done with HIB and safety, guys? Did you guys say everything you wanted to say about this?
I think so. I mean, I think just to reiterate what Leo said is that the true failure here is that there is no collaboration, and if there are, a group of parents who are working with the insiders, so to speak, that I don't know that they're a distinguished representative of all of the voices in our community. So I think, even the optics that people are being sort of shut out or certain people are being heard it's going to put us in a crappy spot, and it's a crappy spot for our kids because without proper communication and collaboration, we fail.
Yeah, but this is the thing, man. We just don't have the patience for it. Like, really, we do so much so fast, so many big things that really ought to be like town halls and like year-long processes. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it really is crazy the kind of decisions that we're making within a flip of a switch. I mean, and it's like, I mean, it is the most bizarre thing I have ever seen to have a, reconfiguration in 2 weeks, DI, boom, BTC and changing your approach to math, boom. I mean, it's insane. So I don't know. I don't think it's just about safety and security. I really think it's like, hey, we're doing this cool thing, and it feels good to say it to the community, but like what Leo's saying, there's no real follow through. It's just a shell to give the impression that things are being done, and then when you start questioning the results or how you're going to measure things, like the very thing that they're trying to sort of say they're going to improve, it becomes, you're difficult, you're being a problem, we can't measure it. There is nothing that they cannot measure. There just isn't.
Yeah, and to that, there's parents that support the programs that see eye to eye with the superintendent. But the thing is if the management of the programs are terrible, the program that you're supporting is doomed to fail anyway. So just because you're in agreement with your leadership on what should be in place in the schools doesn't do you very good if you can't manage it. And if you need, just like you said, you need the feedback too. You need to be able to be very critical about the programs.
Right, but there is no. I mean, and this predates Varley. I mean, honestly, the
Yes, it
idea
does.
of critical feedback, the idea of leadership and receiving critical feedback has always been viewed as disrespectful or problematic or angry. Like, you just can't provide critical feedback, otherwise, you're labeled something. It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
All right, let's kind of stop out of there, and then we're going to go to our next one. And Shauna, you're on top of this. Class choice, and I kind of want to tie BT. Let's do class choice.
Okay. So in Tap Into, there was an article posted that said, "Why should I take that?" I actually thought that was kind of nice. My first reaction was, why is this in Tap? But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, I kind of like this. It's kind of nice that they're trying different avenues to give parents information. And I think that's a huge positive step. But then, of course, there's always a caveat. We have, a wide range of students in our district. Some of them are super accelerated. Some of them are not. We have special ed students. And what I've found, kind of having kids at both ends of the spectrum, is that we don't do a great job of providing a lot of choice for our kids who have special needs, 504s, IEPs. So to give you an example, and then we'll tie math into this later. If you have a student who's a junior and taking Algebra 2, you'll have your counselor say, well, senior year colleges really want you to take a 4th year of math, right? The problem then becomes, if your junior is taking Algebra 2, they're a year behind sort of in terms of our school. So looking at the classes that are available, you've got Algebra 3, Math Analysis, and Math for Living. Those are your next
Math
steps.
for Living.
Math for Living is sort of general life skills class, which is great, but I don't know how
I want to see
universities are
math
going to view
applied
that.
in other areas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
sorry.
problem with that is, so let's say your kid wants to go into Math Analysis or Algebra 3 because that's a continuation of what they've just been doing. There's no support. And there's limited support already. ICR is called In-Class Resource. A couple years ago, maybe 3, our district took everyone who was in a small class called a resource.
Wait, say that again, Sean. You broke up.
So they put everybody in gen. I know, I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi is bad. A few years back, they took everyone out of like resource room classes, which were very, very small classes, dedicated special ed teacher, and they put them in with general education with a part-time special ed teacher in the room. And that was their in-class resource person. And it was a huge fail. And that was the start of my war with the district. So you've got a kid who wants a 4th year of math, but their Algebra 3 Analysis don't offer in-class resources. And there also is not a resource room level class for those students. So take a 4th year of math, but we're not going to help you with it, which is sort of a problem. And by contrast, math, you have 6 AP classes available to you.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I mean, I think it speaks to, again, John Delore, do you have any sort of thoughts on, I don't know if you guys are into the math thing.
No, I'm on the learning curve on this one. So,
no, just I found it odd that I was getting this wealth of information on picking classes from Tap Into, and my first thing was they have every parent's email address. Like, why? Like, you've an 8th grade child going to GL. You are in the midst of trying to figure out scheduling and classes and, their trajectory for the next 4 years. And we're getting a Tap Into article. Like, what that, but that goes back to the, failure to properly communicate. It seemed a little bit showy and stunty, but a huge miss for me. But I'm a little bit new to the scheduling game here.
I mean, my issue with math, I mean, I feel like when you get really overwhelmed when I think about math. Because I mean, when Shauna brought this up, I think we talked about this before the whole. I think we talked about this 2 days ago, right? We were kind of like texting back and forth on this, and I just feel like you look at one fucking thing, and then there's like 15 other fucking things, and then there's like 18 other things. I mean, and there's such a there's right big thinking classroom, and well, wait, let's start even before that. So the whole proficiency issue. And when we brought up the proficiency issue, there was a whole war of like, oh my God, you're not reading this right. And it ends up, yeah, we were kind of reading this right. I mean, and when they did the board meeting, it kind of validated kind of what we were talking about. And it felt like they kept trying to bring the message, the district kept trying to bring the message on just algebra and how it kind of split up differently in middle school and high school, neglecting geometry, neglecting science. And then, that whole thing. And then big thinking classroom goes on top of that with math. And then all of a sudden, man, we have a problem with big thinking classroom. Oh, no, it starts off with, I don't know what even the response was. It went from blaming students to teachers having a learning curve. I had one board member say that we've been doing this for years. No, only one teacher has been doing it for years, I think, from what I understand. It hasn't been like every teacher doing this for years, and there hasn't been a coherent training in this. Like, I don't have a problem with big thinking classroom. I don't even know that much about it. I just have a problem with how you did it. And I have a problem not knowing that that's what my kid was doing 2 months in until I found out like shit was hitting the fan, And then I find out this, right? And this is just one thread. I mean, this is one thread. This isn't like this is math. Multiply that by a billion things. And so it's the overall message, like what the hell is going on?
But then here's another thing that I'm hearing. So my message would, and I don't know if it's the Linkit or the iReady. We have all these new systems in place to track our kids and support our kids and help our kids. Ask your kid what level they're doing. So I'm hearing stories from parents. This is all this automated programming on the computers, and the computer provides the child with a level where they are. So I'm hearing kids in 6th and 7th grade are doing math on a 2nd grade level, and parents are just finding out and going, what the hell? If my kid is tested at this level, why wasn't I notified? And why is it okay for my teenager to be doing 2nd grade math? Like that's so I'm now questioning why we have these testing capabilities with all these programs. Are we looking to say like, oh, that 6th grade, everybody passed where they're at? Where are they at? Because that's confusing.
Yeah, right. If they're taking 2nd grade math, that's an easy.
Right. So, which, concerns me with this whole, like, are we being fed lies, mistruths? You can call it whatever you want. But if we are looking at the data that we're getting from these new testing protocols that we're giving to our kids, like, is it accurate? I don't know. I would say,
I don't
ask
really
your
trust
child
it.
where they are.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, that was a bit of a jaw-dropping realization. And a couple parents who came to me were like, who do I call? I'm like, everyone.
Go to a board meeting, guys. You know what?
Go to a board meeting.
I'm sorry. They're like talking to us. I mean, we like to talk to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, but they like talking to people. That's great. But if you don't go to a board meeting, complaining in chat rooms or like, to each other isn't going to help. Write something or show up. I mean, honestly, I think one of the frustrating things with Big Thinking Classroom, at least I know for Shauna and definitely for me.
Okay, I can't let you say that again. I can't let you say that another time. Building the thinking classroom.
Building. Yeah.
Whatever. Big thinking building, whatever. I don't even know what it's called. That's how bad I am with this shit. Right. So like whatever. Big thinking building. Thinking, what?
I said, but to your point, people have stopped talking about it.
It was a program that was supposed to have a lot of pomp and circumstance, right? Like it was a big deal.
No.
And
It wasn't. It was
very hush hush. Parents didn't know about it until their students who were previously, A students started getting D's, F's, and the parents went, "What the hell is going on?"
My question is,
come to find out,
why wouldn't there be pomp and circumstance when you bring that program in? Like, That's the first question mark.
Because then people know it's a new program and they start looking at it.
So this goes back
As
to the
far as
theme.
I can tell,
It invites criticism, which every proposal ever in the history of humankind has always had. Every program has criticism. They're afraid of that. But this is a program that should be an improvement. It's been successful in other places now. I mean, it's generally considered a
I'm so upset
successful
that
program.
Shauna yelled at me for calling it Big Thinking Classrooms.
there's no proven track record here. So we spoke to, it was initiated by another parent in our district, but I've been following up with a distinguished professor of mathematics education, math and physics at Rutgers. He said until we contacted him, he knew that a few schools in Canada had been doing it, but he doesn't have any real world feedback on it. So it's fairly new. This isn't a big program like in the elementaries where we said, okay, now we're using this program. This is a method of teaching that some teachers have chosen to follow and teachers are not following. So it's not a district-wide program. It's up to the individual teacher, and some are having more success than others.
But like now piggyback off that is that I've heard our superintendent in multiple platforms of meetings say, and it's been said multiple times, that we are moving away from direct instruction. So like, what the hell are we doing? Like, what is this is this the future? Are kids just gonna like?
No, remember, we're the future.
That's scary.
That's what I said.
But it's concerning. Even tie in this, the multitude of students we have, right? We have the children who are in special ed. We have the children who are accelerated. And then what I would beg to say is the greatest majority of, just the regular mainstream students. This isn't a program that works for everyone. So like, why can't we test our kids to see who are the personalities and whose brains work in a way in which these building thinking classrooms, they accelerate, and there's kids that don't. And we've got a $70 million budget. We can't figure this out and put kids where they're going to excel. That's concerning.
That opens up.
Dude, we can figure out how to do a Zoom meeting at a board meeting. Like, I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Just throw some more money at it. We'll figure the Zoom meeting.
Well, back to school.
No,
all right.
That's a big can of worms because.
Hold on, Sean is talking. Ish.
Man, her internet connection is giving me leprosy.
Maybe we should give family Wi-Fi is so bad. Yeah. No, I was just saying it would be nice. It would be nice
Maybe you
if
should what?
students were given a choice of whether to do building. Give students a choice of whether they want building the thinking classroom. This math class is BTC. This isn't.
All right, let's go to Wawa. I think this is just something that that a certain camp, the Kingsley camp, just put out there to kind of act as a red herring. This shit isn't going to happen for whatever. It sounds like the two stores that were going to be affected by this went online and said they're not selling anything. Leo can't talk to this. Leo cannot speak to this issue because he's on some kind of like fascist planning board that controls our lives. But I just feel like, I don't know, man. Wawa is better than, I think Sai made a good point in her article. Wawa is better than apartment buildings with kids who go into sort of, with I'm okay with kids going into our schools, but not with sort of people who aren't paying to, developers and shit, not paying money to our schools using our, kind of overloading it, and then there's the traffic issues and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm cool with the Wawa. I don't know what you guys think. And Leo, if you want to give us can you give us an overview of the process with this shit, or what
I can.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I can't speak. I am on the planning board, so I can't speak to the application. But this is the one time I think everybody should look at the master plan. And this is my plug. I was on the master plan subcommittee. We put together a master plan. I wish we spent more time on it. That was a very valuable tool because that actually basically takes a snapshot of town, says where we're at, what are the issues we deal with, and then what do the people want? And then they have to outreach to residents and find out what the people want. And we know what the general consensus is. You can see it in a forum when this gets thrown on the internet for 2 days. You can see what people are saying. So the master plan tries its best to take that, put it together, and say, this is the direction the town generally wants to go in. So if we visit that on the website and look, you can kind of get the idea of what we're looking for. And we all know it's about the same thing. But when it comes to something like this, there are really good processes in place, and they're trying to do more. First of all, you have 2 or 3 avenues for the public to speak about it. So this was not one of them. The technical review committee was put in place. I think the intent was mostly to make it easier for residents to understand when their applications were complete before they went to the building department. So the technical review committee would help applicants like us who would go into the building department 10 years ago or 8 years ago and be like, hey, I would like to do an addition. What do I do? And you weren't a contractor, so you were kind of, that was it. It was easier to interface with contractors, but you got to start asking questions. Technical review committee was one of those things to help with that. But buildings, commercial properties can do the same thing. Use the technical review committee to make sure that their application is complete. The other things that there are in place is the planning board, and that allows public comments. And then there's the environmental commission, and that allows public comments too. And when you say there's things like traffic studies and stuff like that, there's a lot of stuff they have to go through. There's traffic studies, environmental concerns they have to consider, what the lighting's going to look like. All those things goes back to what the master plan design says. And it says, hey, do you want the kind of lighting in your town that doesn't make it glowing all night? So you can, I forget what the word is, but if you have the right type of light, you can actually make your town seem neat and clean at night. It's not super bright when you're around these types of places. So those are the kinds of things that go in the master plan. Now, the master plan is not the final stop. You do have to create ordinances. The master plan is the framework. Say, this is what we want. So when you want to improve parking downtown, you want to control the traffic that you'll have downtown. And when you want to manage the kinds of lighting that people have to put in the parking lots, you have to create an ordinance. So those are things that we're kind of trying to work on. When it comes to being a member of the planning board, what I really, this will be my personal anecdote, I really enjoy the process. I want it to be appropriate. I want it to be written. I want it to be codified, and then we follow it. And that takes a lot of the opinion out of it and personal beliefs. And you have to say, what's the guiding document that says how we choose this? And that's the master plan. That's what the planning board is supposed to render decisions off, is the master plan. That's their guide, their Bible, basically. So
this isn't even in like its infancy of sort of decision making.
Correct. This is technical review committee is them looking to put an application together and see how it fits in our town, essentially, I guess, if I had to put words to it.
No. So this like hysteria about, I'm not going to get into that. Laura, do you have any thoughts about the Wawa?
Like not really, but I will say I'm with you in that the timing of the sort of article coming out, and by the person who put the article out, coming hours, not even hours, I think it was like an hour after the council meeting of Liza's reappointment, all seemed a little shady. So
well, I mean, I think I would ask people to read Si's article too on there, because she does go into the whole the what is it? I don't want to get yelled at by Shauna for calling something wrong again. The Downtown Beautification Committee.
yes, nailed it.
Big beautification committee. I'll call anything I want what I want, Shauna.
They've got that's a big task.
Yeah. Call it something else. Yeah, so they I mean, I think they so that right, so I think there's a history to this, and the players who are now making an issue out of it, it just seems really, really funny, you know, that all of a sudden the people who are making an issue out of this are people making an issue out, and this is I honestly do not think this is gonna happen. I just don't. And if it doesn't, I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you really sit back and think about it, I don't think it's that big of a deal. All right, let's go to Natasha's. Do you have any strong thoughts about the Wawa, Shauna?
No, it's all right.
You sure?
I don't like the idea. You have to decide whether you want your downtown to look like another Route 22 or if you want it to look like downtown. That's all.
I know, but then you could like hang out in front of the Wawa.
That sounds cool.
You know?
I still haven't had these donuts. Like,
Yeah.
can we go?
And then the donuts, yeah.
Group trip?
Like it's like there'd be a place to go. I don't know. That isn't. I don't know. All right, let's go to Natasha's nepotism article. That was a nuclear bomb. That was awesome.
It was
Did you
awesome.
guys read that?
Awesome.
biggest
got
takeaway from
goosebumps.
you from that art? I mean, that was really, yeah, that was really great. What was your biggest takeaway from it? Or your what was the thing that you're happy about it driving home? Or what if that was criticism of it? Do you have a criticism of it?
We're not critical. We're not a critical group here.
Huh.
There's like a couple. I need to bullet point it because there was a lot in there. So one, the amount of money the district paid for her defense for over a year. Two, the fact that she made maybe multiple erroneous statements, some of them under oath. Three, like what's the board going to do about it now? The board was provided with incorrect data, or they were uninformed to make a decision that resulted in 13 months of legal fees. But like at the end of the, like, what the hell are we doing? It seems just ridiculous. I'm sure they'll be, mute as they are in everything else. I'm trying to recall. Did I miss anything? Like any big ones?
No, I think you got me. I think it's sort of like, why didn't you just say what you said in the affidavit right from day one? Why do we have to pay for attorneys for 13 months for you to ultimately admit that you did something? Now, this settlement isn't finalized. We can still call, so this settlement really is sort of a slap on the wrist, and it feels like still based on bad information. So it looks like the SEC is getting the story that I didn't consult with attorneys, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's sort of this slap on the wrist, which is sort of reprimand, whatever, man. I don't care one way or the other. I'm just really annoyed at the fact that, like, why couldn't you say this like 13, 14 months ago? Why couldn't you just say, this and accept it? Why did we have to go through this nightmare? And what does this say about everything else you're telling us? Fucking, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Shauna, any takeaways?
Okay, so I have something to add, and let me know. Hopefully my Wi-Fi will hold up because this is sort of an important point. We have a policy 0174, if anybody wants to look it up, and it says the designated contact person shall ensure that contracted legal counsel is not contacted unnecessarily for, you ready for this, management decisions or readily available information contained in district materials such as board policies, administrative regulations, blah, blah, blah. So basically what it says is she shouldn't have contacted counsel because this is in our board policy.
Well, they've demonstrated a lack of knowledge
This is
for our board policy.
Yeah, and legal counsel.
All right.
Do
So
you know how
basically,
much money was spent on this yet? This particular item?
I don't know.
Nope. No.
I'm still waiting on somewhat unredacted legal bills, which have been sort of with the judge for a long time. Based on my review of legal bills over the last 2 years, which have been redacted, thousands, at least thousands.
What does redaction mean?
Redaction means, so by law, the district needs to redact, which means black out, anything pertaining to personnel or students.
So why are budget items getting redacted?
It's a really good question, John Leo. Trying to figure that out.
We didn't work on that at all.
No,
That sounded well rehearsed though. Nice job.
They shouldn't.
But we talked about this. The
They
redacting
shouldn't
budget
be.
line item.
Basically, we did talk about. Yes, and there are official legal people who believe that a district's legal bills should not be written in a manner that they need to be overly redacted. It should be, whether written in a manner that's confidential or using codes for personnel or student names. Ours are not. Although we are finding things that are redacted don't really need redaction. So I don't know. We're probably going to need another assistant in the business office by June. Sorry, too much?
No. I think when you peel this up, man, it just feels like the whole school district is really basically just there to protect a small group of people. on the board
That's what it becomes.
and the administration. I mean, all the level of resource, the level of PR, the level of attention. And it's all about the appearance of like 9 people, 10 people. It's gone out of control, and I guess people. I wish parents would just look at that, and I think that's why people aren't. The people who should be paying attention to things like math and all this safety and all this other stuff, their focus isn't on that. Their focus is on 13 months of a case that should never have happened. All right, Liza's reappointment. We're all happy that it happened. The many stories of Gene Kingsley as to why this went down in that meeting. So it's a performance issue, but it's not about Liza, but it is about Liza. I mean, it was really hard to pin down.
It's about a process. That
it was a process, but no, it wasn't coordinated. I don't know.
Can you want me to speak to that?
Yeah.
So I can't remember who said it, but I'm gonna go back and find it. Somebody said it's not about Liza. Gene Kingsley said it once, and I think a couple people came up to the microphone and said that.
I think Gene said it multiple times.
If you, very nicely, not doing any extra work for Anna, I'm watching her Oprah log. All the emails.
How many assistants does Anna have?
What's that?
How many assistants? Oh, Anna does not have any assistants. It's crazy because
zero.
Yeah, because she's both pleasant and sends me my Oprah within like the same day.
5 days. 5 days, and she was overwhelmed with other Oprahs because this is what I was checking. I asked for her Oprah log, which was just there. And you can ask that. You can say, hey, what are your Oprahs coming in? And it's a very simple email to send. I don't want to teach everybody how to do this because then they get overwhelmed. I mean, it's just you try to want to make it the work simple for them. So the Oprah log, just copy and paste of what she's got going in. And you kind of see the Oprah activity over an amount of time. And all the Oprahs after the meeting on the 17th, after she was reappointed, were communications for Liza. Who's she emailing, who's she trying to call, and all the other mediums that might be. It was totally about Liza. And they're doing it on the back end to try to back up the whole thing that went forward. So it sounds like that she's got to deal with them going forward, trying to get at her, for whatever reason.
I mean, that's kind of what they do. I mean, again, this is not new. This is like what happened to Liza, happened to Laura kind of, a year ago. It's happened to a lot of people being locked out. This was just great because it was so public. And it just kind of exposed exactly how, I hate to say it, but that sort of block in the Republican Party operates. It's not all Republicans. I mean, there are, Donnelly. Donnelly seems like a decent sort of character. John Sagagli, I don't know if he's still there or not, but he seems like a really decent character. But I mean, Gene is, for a long time has kind of run the show here and has done this shit to people. This isn't the first time this kind of thing has happened, and I'm just glad that people are paying attention to it. That's my opinion.
What I found sort of comical in my deep-rooted understanding of OPMA and Oprah is that Jean sort of like admittedly stated that she has all these like private backdoor meetings about town business, but seemed completely unfazed by the fact that there was at least 1 or 2 residents that were like, yeah, I think you may have even said that, John. So I
kept using the word secret meetings 18,000 times. It just kept using
that's the process that she was trying to allude to.
Yeah.
The secret process. You can't find in their manuals and code or anything that there was a process that they were just trying to hang their hat on.
Right.
This was a timing of internal workings that managerial processes that they were upset that the politicians didn't get tuned in enough so that they could react as politicians. That's what they were upset about. So they're upset that Liza probably went to go find about the resources on everything first before crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So here's one thing that I found was interesting. I think Kenilworth or somebody had the same thing happen. They got a 5-2 Republican board. It was mostly Republicans and then a Democrat mayor. They threw out the administrator there. No one came to cry that the administrator was left. It kind of went unnoticed. What that tells me is that Liza put capital in the people in this town. Those weren't all her friends going up to the microphone. She made a difference in the town, and the people were like, this is the one process you are supposed to file as an elected official, is that the majority of the people that you represent are telling you something, and that's how you're supposed to vote, period. Nothing nebulous. You're missing that point.
But we've seen this, you know, and I know we were on texting earlier about the ridiculous proclamation for, you know, the board recognition.
Oh, yeah.
In that they're, you know, any group of elected officials' primary responsibility is to either elicit those responses from the public and to represent them. And I think, you know, with the exception of maybe one or two board members and one or two council members, they're completely failing. It's a failed system. So I think getting people riled up, I think the Liza thing really got heat under a lot of people that normally don't feel that heat. And I hope the pressure continues on both the township and the school board fronts, because it's enough.
Yeah, I'm not hopeful.
It will fade, but people should feel less afraid for speaking up at least. And I think what's going on is the way we're going is in the town side of town things going on is they're trying to elicit more input. And nobody up there, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but at least the way Liza runs it is, and the way I think about these processes is you don't put your dream into motion just because it's yours and you think it's good for the town. You roll it into motion and then you try to get other people's input. And if your idea completely goes to the wayside because you found out that what the people want is better, that's how it's supposed to go. That process is not codified anywhere. So you try to put something in like trails. We're trying to build better trails in towns. That's in the master plan. But just because I have an idea of where something should go or how a trail should work, it means nothing. If the people that live near that trail or utilize a different route or want something a little bit different, that's what matters. And that's when I came to town, that's what I saw was happening, is that the pet projects were overtaking the majority wants. And I think it's changing. And I think that's finally changing.
I
think the process is changing, so we're actually starting to hear the town people on the town is taking a good direction because we're eliciting that input.
So I missed the first part of the meeting. Did Jean tell people not to bully her at the meeting? That is rich. I mean, that
Actually,
is really coming from her. That is very, very rich.
It was after probably, if you took public comments and split them into thirds, I'd say after the first third, it was a complete directive at the people of Berkeley Heights saying, just stop bullying me, which was, you know, received with laughter, at least.
I mean, that, like, there's so many parts to that, both in what happens in this and then outside of this, that make that comment, like, unbelievably absurd, you know? All right. I don't know. Is there anything we want to end with? I mean, I got to break this shit up in like 20-minute clips because you guys talk too much.
We talk too much?
Well,
talking about bullying, Shauna just went for my throat like 8 times during
She does that. She pushed me on the schoolyard. She's a bully.
I know. She's like all nice and quiet, and then she's like, it's not Big Chicken Classroom.
That's a lot of Ghostbusters. It's always the quiet ones.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
No.
Moment of Zen.
So there's an upcoming board meeting on Thursday night, and you know, reader beware. It is the NJSBA, New Jersey School Boards Association, mandatory training.
That's going to be a theater. That's going to be a play, a little show that they're going to put on.
It's going to be a play. However, be careful because these are the nights that they like to put shit on that agenda because nobody's paying attention.
And the training is first, right? Did they do that last time? Is the training first again?
Of course it is. Of course. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so pay attention to that meeting, guys.
Makes sense.
We'll pay attention to every meeting.
Yep.
All right. Guys, have a good Sunday. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah.
The custodian. Yeah.
Good call.
About the custodian of records.
Wi-Fi. All right.
All
Never mind. Yeah.
All right. Later, Shauna.
All right. I'll have better Wi-Fi next time. All right. Bye.
I hope so.
Sure.
This was painful, man.
Come feel mine. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
just come to my basement.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Later, Shauna.